Welcome and thanks for joining our session today. So in this webinar today, we'll focus on the new SAP Intelligent Asset Management solution. And the idea of today is basically to give you a first overview of the individual components and then also impression of the system afterwards with the system demo. We are currently, as you might have seen, running this Industry 4.0 webinar series, which is focusing on manufacturing asset management. And today is basically the starting point for asset management. And today, as I mentioned, first building a foundation, and you will then see more sessions on the individual components and solutions thereafter. And so please watch out on our website for the upcoming webinars as well. When we look at the agenda, I'm happy that we have today Shobit from SAP today with us. Who will start with an overview of the intelligent asset management portfolio. And after that, we will cover then the core aspects and establishing a common view on the data and the integration layer, followed by the individual topics of asset collaboration, reliability, and of course also the topic of asset health. And then, as I mentioned, we will look into the system to get some kind of a look and feel. Before we then get started, let me just briefly introduce ourselves here. We have, as I mentioned, Shobit from SAP joining us, who's a Regional Business Development Manager for the region MEE, and overseeing the strategy, demand generation, partner and customer relationships, and account management. Prasad, also joining us from our side here, is an enterprise asset management expert, working at Westdocker and has more than 12 years of experience in the SAP plant maintenance area. And we have also David with us today, who got super early today in the US, who has an extensive and varied background in plant maintenance, procurement, materials management, etc. And is basically has 30 years of experience, including 25 years using SAP. And last but not least, my name is Matthias. I'm leading our global industry 4.0 practice, and I have more than 10 years of experience in the SAP supply chain space. Few practical things that I want to quickly cover. So as you might have noticed, everyone is muted. In case you have any questions, there's a chat box on the right side of your screen. Those questions will be then selected, and of course, we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. And the presentation will be recorded, and for sure, we will share this with you afterwards. As I also mentioned, we're in this kind of webinar series, so this is now the third webinar. So again, there will be more focusing then on more of the specifics of the intelligent asset management topic that we cover today. So feel free to watch out for those on our website, and also the previous ones you can see on our YouTube channel. So before we then get started with the topic itself, briefly introduction of who we are, Westdocker, just in a nutshell. So we are an SAP Gold partner with a history of more than 50 years. We have 650 consultants globally, from the Americas to Europe to Asia, and are 100% employee owned. So what we do is basically we cover the SAP digital supply chain solution portfolio from basic planning to manufacturing up to the logistics execution, and all of this fully integrated into SAP S/4HANA European finance. Yeah, so it's really fully integrated digital supply chain into the end-to-end process. For today, you're talking to basically the team that is more focusing then on one aspect of it, which is Industry 4.0, so covering asset management, manufacturing, and IoT topics. Having said that, I will now hand over to Shobit from SAP, who will take us through an overview of the relevance of asset management as a topic, and also SAP solution offering.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I was trying to unmute myself, somehow I couldn't, right? So first of all, Matthias and Westdocker team, thank you so much for giving an opportunity to give you all a short introduction about SAP Intelligent Asset Management. So what I'm going to do in the next 5 to 6 minutes is basically give you an overview that why SAP, after speaking to our install-based customers and a huge amount of customers, realized that we need to resolve the problem how to maintain the assets and how to utilize the assets for our customers, right? And to start with, if you look at the industry dynamics right now, so this is just an example of the balance sheets of 3 industries I took for our customers. So you see the process utilities, automotive customers, that's their balance sheet over here. And if we looked inside into their overall cost of assets, right? Like how much is their cost of revenue, how much is their revenue, and how much is their cost of revenue. So then we realize you have a huge amount of fixed assets in these companies. And with a huge amount of fixed assets, there comes a lot of costs associated with it when it comes to the maintenance of these assets, as well as, like, for a CFO, it's important that how I can increase my working capital, right? Like how I can minimize the inventory cost as much as possible, current inventory cost, so that we can sell that product more and get more out of revenue, right? So the approach for SAP together with our customers was that how we can provide the maximum efficiency of your assets and overall reduce the cost of the assets. That's how we begin with. And if you jump on the next slide, you will see that when we spoke to our major asset intensive industry customers who are operating these assets, we sat down with them and we tried to understand what are their key priorities. So the number one key priority for them was that how to utilize the asset at maximum as possible and get the return of investment without sabotaging it, without breaking it. So we have customers in the shipping industry who are doing the engines for the big cargo ships, and they basically said, like, 1 hour of that engine not working, malfunctioning, costs us roughly 100,000 euros. But at the same time, that's just the operation part, like for 1 hour of non-business and the ship being idle. We're not talking about the repair cost of the engine itself, right? And the spare part cost and everything. So for the companies, it's important that how much an asset can be utilized as maximum as possible without breaking it. So you can get the best return of investment per asset. You can expand the revenue coming from one asset and generate that revenue, right? The other priority which our customers have is to drive safe operations, because nobody wants to have their workers and their employment force in danger. So in mining industry, in oil and gas industry, in process industry, wherever companies are running huge plants, environment, like health and safety is like really, really important. Like now, because of this new clean initiative, sustainable initiatives from global government, it's also very important that first, like from the environment wise, that you're not producing so much waste or carbon dioxide and the gases. At the same time, to make sure your employees are safe. And third, on the not least, and the elephant in the room, is to reduce costs. So we do have customers like, to give a reference customer, Trenitalia in Italy, who has like a 1 billion budget for just for maintenance for their trains. And then using the SAP solutions, they are basically saving 10%, which is roughly 100 million euros per year on the maintenance of their trains, right? So the third most important part is to reduce costs on the maintenance, because when you have a digital portfolio of your assets, and when you know where my assets are located, how they are running, till when I can use them before they break. So we're moving towards more from corrective maintenance to predictive, proactive maintenance. So when you know that, okay, this particular asset needs to repair in 1 month's time at this particular time based on the rate we are using right now. Similarly, for companies like in the process or the food industry, like the Easter, Halloween time, when there's like a big season for them, so they can basically already know that a couple of months ago, we will be using our assets to our maximum efficiency to produce the goods we need for our for the market period, correct? So if you move to the next slide. And speaking of it, with the operators, we realized that it's not only the asset intensive industries who are using assets, but also there is a big gap between the manufacturers and original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, who are producing these machines. Because first of all, they don't know that where their assets, the machines they are producing, are being used. So they sell to a customer, but they don't know like which plants, which machine model, where it's being used. They have no insights into that. Plus, if you look at the business of the OEM and the and the manufacturers, you will realize that 30 to 80% of the business comes from the spare parts, right? And over there, you have also very small players, niche players, which also eat their market by supplying those spare parts. And a lot of time, customers are not actually are able to connect with the original OEM manufacturers for the right spare parts which they require for their machines. So taking this wide gap business need for both the OEM and operators and the value propositions which are needed for the both manufacturers and operators, SAP basically we launch a solution portfolio within our digital supply chain to connect with your backend processes which are running in your ERP, in your plant maintenance, as well as have an oversight about your manufacturing and processes from the manufacturer's point of view to basically provide a digital twin of your assets. So you are like having a portfolio of all your assets available to you in a click of a button in a dashboard to see where these assets are, and then a whole portfolio performing different functions based on your business needs currently. So if we jump on the next slide. And with this portfolio, we did a benchmark with our customers who are currently running the ERP in the backend, having the plant maintenance in the backend, and now using our solutions. And by using the solutions, we came out the numbers that 25% using our solutions, 25% saved on their maintenance cost. Overall, 25% maintenance cost was saved compared to their yearly budget, as well as they have 47% reduced accidental frequency. So it's not about the corrective maintenance anymore, that when the machine breaks, then you realize that, oh, we need to call a technician, we need to call like the OEM to bring the spare parts. At the same time, then we need to repair the machine. No, so 47% you have lower accident, because you know that based on the machine I'm operating right now, when this machine will break. And then so you can prepare, you can already lower down that machine's effectiveness if you know that this machine is going to break soon, so that you can still let the machine work but not break completely, and you can plan the maintenance accordingly. And overall, there was 40% decrease in the work order processing. So work order processing means the work orders generated by the plant maintenance in the back ends to all the way to technicians and back and forth, right? So if you go on the next slide, I will just leave you with, I will just give you an overall, the portfolio, like what we have. I'm not going to go much more insights, but just to give we have a huge portfolio of the solutions, which basically covers the entire end-to-end asset management, right? We call it intelligent asset management because it's being digital. It's by using not only the static data coming from your system, but also dynamic data using the IoT sensors. But at the same time, the whole portfolio is not something, if you want, you can be consumed in one go, but at the same time, it's like bite by bite. It's about having the strategy to make sure that you see value in the asset management, you see value for the company to increase the equipment effectiveness, to reduce the cost, and hand the proceed forward. And I will leave you in the overall architecture diagram. Please don't be scared. So before I hand over to David to explain to you what Asset Central Foundation is and what our solutions are, just to give an overview, if you look at the center, this is our cloud solution, cloud portfolio with the different solutions over there. And with Asset Central Foundation is the foundation which connects the master data with the back end, and how this all piece fit together is with our back end. with the OEMs manufacturers, with the IoT sensors, is basically to give an overview. And this overview will be explained byte by byte, like what is Asset Central, what is AIN, what is ASPM, what is PI, what is DMC, by David and Prasad going forward. So I hand over to David.
Thank you very much, Shobit. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm David Murch with Westdocker, and we're very glad we can bring you this information. At Westdocker, we have a long history of bringing business experience and perspective to our projects. We don't take just a purely IT view of our challenges, or the solutions. We're always looking for how these current innovations can be used to achieve business needs for the organizations, and so this is very exciting to us. I have a long history in maintenance, and this is the kind of tools that we've been needing for many years. We believe strongly in staying up to date on these topics, and we've always kept a very hands-on approach on how we've approached the solutions, including maintaining our own functioning and integrated systems that are fully functional. We use them in order for not our own education demos, but to really learn on how they can meet our customers' challenges. So we'd like to kind of show you our perspective on what we've seen with the SAP's Asset Central, and now we can use these IAM tools for the Industry 4.0 initiative. Thank you. First, as we all know, the foundation of a good reliability program is going to be the data. IAM sticks with the proven methodology of one source of the truth. All the important elements are integrated with the back end, regardless of the system. Adding to that, as you're going to hear more about, it's collaborative. The platform can be a method for manufacturers and service providers to provide those attributes, information, etc. As an example, we're going to show you some of the data across IAM. Some are existing in ERP and some are new. Although you can maintain all of these, some of these objects are even intended to be updated by the business partners. You'll see those in the light gray. We also have to worry about the quality of the data. And we're going to be, if we're going to follow the best practices and establish the digital twins, we need both the depth and the breadth of this information. More often we've seen with emphasis on getting as many equipment records as possible, as if volume was going to be the answer. And really, it's more the lack of data to have the right data to the right quality to the right equipment. There's nothing wrong with having a complete list of equipment, but we got to have the right data in the right areas. IAM Master Data is built, around not only providing the depth and breadth, but also keeping this integration across the whole system. This is also important to different users' perspectives, not just the end users, but also the OEMs and who can provide the data, and the service providers who are also going to be consuming this data. OEMs are, or at least should be, a great source of the attributes for the equipment. And we're able to sync the data and work with the manufacturers and suppliers to help provide that data without us having to glean through hard copies and web searches that usually kind of slow down that entire effort. So with now, I'm going to turn it over to Prasad and let him start walking through some of the benefits, and start with one of the components, the Asset Intelligence Network.
Yeah, thanks, David. So let's start with the first component for Asset Intelligence Network. All right, so we will just talk about the Asset Intelligence Network first. Okay, so this is our first cloud capability provided by SAP, which is we would like to introduce this as a maybe Facebook of asset. This is because this is a platform where your business operators or different business partners, they can make their business friend like OEM, original equipment manufacturer, service provider, or insurer, and these business partner basically help them to maintain those assets in their end-to-end life cycle of the asset. They can share the documents like your OEM. They can contribute in sharing the latest 2D, 3D diagrams of your machines. They can also help you to provide the more information about the indicators. So indicator is something the sensor install on those equipment. So manufacturers are the most knowledgeable in that area. And again, some updates related to the services or product as the time goes, right? Similarly, your service provider, they are also helpful for any asset owning company. They can provide updates or recommendations based on the instructions. Instructions again is similar like a task list, where they can provide you updates about the safety precautions to be made on while maintaining those assets. They can also suggest you tools to be used and then pre and post condition to be checked on each and every instructions, right? So in nutshell, all these business partners are using this platform to exchange their data electronically. And eventually this is a new business model where you have a different or improved master data structure. So as shown on the previous screen in Asset Central, we have quite a new master data objects also available as a part of Asset Central. And one of the most important thing is that this all master data is more standardized, meaning that again, we are referring to the standard ISO reference and so on and so forth. So let's take a deep dive of it. So again, from the manufacturer point of view and asset owning company point of view, so everyone is basically getting the benefit out of it. So as an example, asset owning company, they are definitely going to get the improved master data quality, because now your experts like your manufacturer and your services who are maintaining your equipment, they are going to get your access, of course, depending on the permission granted by your premium account or asset owning company. So they are going to update your data, and that's why it's provide you more transparency in terms of the activity performed, right? And it's also increases your employee experience for your employee, and then it's eventually reduce the cost, because traditionally all this information was available in silos and they manually they need to convert into the digital factor. So all that has been reduced, and your business partners are helping you to maintain that data directly into the system. So again, if you see from manufacturer point of view, they are also in win-win situation, because this platform they can use for position their product in better way. They can promote their after sales services or any product improvement, and they can also take the feedback from your asset owning company. Lastly, the asset service provider, so they are also able to reduce the onboard time, because all information again available within the system, and depending on the permission granted to them, they can see the historical data of the your work assets and propose better services to the client. It will result definitely into the increased customer satisfaction, and that is how the overall concept of AIN is all about. So let's we jump on to the next cloud capability, which is asset strategy and performance management. So this is another cloud capability SAP has introduced, and the idea or the basic use case for this one is that it helps us to assess asset performance and improve your maintenance strategy. So this comes with the standard reliability methodologies. Okay, so these reliability methodologies are not something new. So those are been in industry from last so many years. Now the good factor is that those assessment now possible within the system, especially in the SAP, and we can run those onto the improved master data provided by your Asset Central or your AIN platforms. So again, if you refer to the your flow diagram, the first thing we can perform a risk and criticality of the asset, because we should know the which asset is critical from the risk perspective, and depending the criticality score, either we can take the reliability center maintenance. For example, high critical asset can follow reliability center maintenance, any medium can follow failure mode effect analysis, and any low critical can follow run to failure, or depending on your maintenance philosophy. So every assessment typically have the recommendation as an outcome. Those recommendations are again nothing but the system document, which you can review in PM or preventive maintenance review tile, which is again a functionality provided by this ASPM, and further executed in your EAM or ERP system as a part of integration between Asset Central and your ERP system. Let's understand a couple of example of it. So starting with the RCA. So as I mentioned, so every asset doesn't require to be follow the same maintenance strategy. So depending on the impact on environment or risk of failure and its impact onto the environment or operation, we need to define a different strategy, right? So system basically allow us to perform that assessment at equipment level or at location level or even at the group of equipment level. And then we can define the number of dimensions at which we want to perform this risk assessment within the system. And we can also define the scales or answers for those questions for those assessment. Taking another example about reliability center maintenance. So reliability center maintenance is something, again, as per SAE J101 standard. So standard reliability center maintenance come with the standard 7 questions, right? So your level 0 question, what should be my scope? That will be get answered by your RCA assessment. And then once you know the asset, probably these 7 questions we can document as a part of master data in your SAP system, and wherein basically we can identify what are the functions performed by your asset, what are the different failure possible by this asset, and similarly, what are the causes for this failure or failure mode possible with it, and eventually the effect. Those effect, again, we can categorize in terms of different impact of operation cost and so on and so forth as a part of consequences. So these consequences come up with this series of questions within the system. Those can be defined, and every question again will have yes or no type of answers. And depending on your answers, system suggests you the subsequent questions. So that all basically features is possible within the SAP to perform your assessment. And outcome of this assessment will definitely have either preventive or corrective actions, and those actions can be executed in your ERP system with your standard plant maintenance processes. So that is again a quick overview about this cloud capability. So we are just covering the quick overview. In our subsequent webinar, we will definitely cover the detailed features and capabilities are available through this different capabilities. So David, would you like to add anything on this slide?
Yeah, I mean, the immediate benefit would come from these assessments. They're one of the significant advantages, of the ASPM. The collective functionality is not just a bolt-on or an external system or documents that are scattered about. It's integrated in the system, not just the data, but also the actionable recommendations that Prasad mentioned. We can run the different levels of the assessments based on the needs and track this implementation of the recommendations all within the same system. Since the assessments are done with the goal of reliability, implementing the right recommendations should lead down the path. But having them all integrated lets us monitor and prioritize this effort the same we would do with any other maintenance activity. They're part of the ERP. So the collaboration aspects are great, but we still have a bit of a journey to getting both sides contributing. There's a lot of benefit to be had, when both sides are actually communicating with this thing, the supplier, of the data and the consumer of the data. So, there's some great opportunities here. It'd be wonderful to try and get something down this path. I mean, this is something we've been wanting for many years. Prasad?
Yep, thanks, David. So let's see the last cloud capability, which is predictive asset insight. Okay, so this is again a cloud capability which come with your latest technologies, right? So this PAI basically talked about your machine learning, artificial intelligence, digital twins, and sensor or IoT. So basically, the idea is that on one side we have a IoT sensor data, so which help us to read your asset health, physical asset health, and we also have access of your maintenance record, historical maintenance record from your ERP system. So all this data further get utilized or run through analytics using machine learning and AI technologies. So basically, SAP come up here with the standard algorithm, basically machine learning algorithm that we can select and choose based on our need-to-need case basis or a type of asset nature. And similarly, this data can also be used to replicate your digital twin of your asset into the system. So this digital twin is something where we can simulate your asset performance within the system based on the real sensor data. As an outcome of this analytics, basically we are expecting to determine the anomaly detections of your asset or any failure probabilities in future or any the remaining useful life of the asset. Again, let's take a couple of examples here. What basically this component provides facility. So one of the tool provided by this capability is a failure mode analytics. So idea again here is that we can use the historical notation long test to identify the asset insight. So it uses the two-level machine learning. In first level machine learning, what system does, it's read your historical notification long test and it's try to compare the important topics from that notification long test with the standard failure mode suggested by the different ISO standards. Okay, and then those recommendations are proposed to the customer as an expert review. Once that expert review is completed or accepted, the second level machine learning, which is more supervised, will be executed, wherein we system assign those failure modes to the notifications. So when I say supervised, it means the historical patterns of your failure modes has been taken into the consideration while assigning those failure modes to the notification. So I'm at the level 4th, where my second level machine learning runs, which assign your failure modes to your incoming notification types. Okay, and then it's help us to identify the failure patterns. Basically, what are the different failures or pattern on a frequently basis, and that help us to determine the different matrices like MTTR and TBF. Eventually, all this information we can store into the system, so that this information will be useful for further assessment in ASPM or your S4 analytics. Okay, so another example of PAI is failure curve analytics. So this is again a very interesting thing where basically again we can use the historical record, okay, the notifications and work order, and based on that we can predict the future failure of an asset and a remaining useful life of the asset. So the good part is that it doesn't require any IO2 setup. So based on your historical record, we will able to predict your asset performance in future. The idea again here, we use this system uses the Weibull distribution for this. So this is a statistical formula being used in most of the reliability solutions, and it's very recommendable or acceptable. So again, for any industry, this can be something to get started with. So without having IO2 setup, one can easily start with using this particular functionality. And lastly, we have rules and alerts. We are as a standard features provider or standard app provided by SAP here. So we can define the rules or conditions within the system to be get action based on your anomaly detection. As an example, for my pump, for which my risk score is more than 200, and I want to generate an alert if the temperature crosses more than 35 degrees Celsius. So this type of different conditions I can put into this application as a part of rules, and based on those rules I can generate alert, notification or emails. So this is very simple to use functionality. In nutshell, let me summarize the basic offering and then probably we can jump on to the system demo. So in nutshell, basically SAP come up with this 7-step approach where my first 4 blocks are talking more about the asset performance management. This is referring to your 3 cloud capability we just talked about, and your building block number 5, 6 and 7, or specifically 5 and 6 is talking about your ERP system, which is your standard ERP or S4HANA system. Lastly, 7 block is about mobile solution, which is supported by your asset manager. Okay, so let me take you into the system and see the offering provided by this IAM solution. So this is on my login page. Okay, with the valid credentials, we can log into the system. So once we log into the system, you can see there are a number of standard apps are available in the system. So these all apps are nothing but different functionality provided by your asset strategy, performance management, PAI, predictive asset insights, and your AIN, asset intelligence network. So let me take you to the quickly into the equipment. So we will try to see one of the equipment, and with the help of that, we'll try to understand how basically that will benefit for the customer. So now here basically you can see the list of equipments have been loaded. So these equipments can be loaded as a part of initial load from your ERP system. Okay, so as a part of one side we have this cloud system, and other side we have this ERP system, right? So whenever we have a initial load, so we can migrate your all ERP equipment into the asset central side as an initial load. Again, we have some controls over there depending on your needs. Again, we can control that flow, which all equipment really we want to migrate onto the asset central. So again, taking you one example, pump 101 today to explain the more detailed features of it. In this equipment, when I click on this external ID, you can find my ERP reference here. So this is my 1 series 36 number, which is my ERP equipment, okay, from your S4HANA system. This is nothing but I open here, and on your ERP side, you will see an additional tab called Asset Central. This need to be configured, and then depending on your configuration, we can show the different information which are specifically for your Asset Central point of view. Okay, so we can have assessment, we can have indicators or instructions which are uploaded on that equipment. That all information we can see on your ERP system side. Taking ahead in information tab, now you can see these attributes. These attributes are nothing but your characteristics. So basically, and traditionally we used to have these characteristics, or we have this in ERP side, but as compared to that, now SAP has really done great job here to bring all that information upfront so that we can easily access and monitor them. Okay, the another good factor is that we can now group those as characteristics or attribute by different locations, your model number or equipment, and we can also upload the pictorial values for those characteristics. Another important factor is that now this pump has been created with reference of class pump, which come with the subclass as a centrifugal. So now this class and subclass and corresponding attributes for this pump will be proposed by the SAP as your default suggestion, or will be available as a by default by SAP. So this is something referring to the ISO standards. SAP recommends what attribute we need to follow for each different equipment type. Taking it to down, you can see there are a number of new fields has been added in the equipment information. Those provides you more data integrity for maintaining those equipment from your operator, manufacturer, or service provider point of view. We can also have additional business partner to be maintained on this equipment. And lastly, we can define the geographical location on the information tab. Again, with interest of time, I'm taking you to the next feature, which is a visual part. So this visual part is nothing but the 3D dimensional view of your equipment. Okay, so this help us to analyze the assembly of your equipment. Also, it will be get loaded. Yeah, it's there. So you can navigate to different part. You can analyze in 3D view, and whenever you click on any part of it, the system suggests what are the corresponding your part number on the left side. Okay, so that is something again newly added as a part of Asset Central offering. In the documentation, again, we have series of documentation, but today I will take you to the instructions. So as I mentioned before, this instruction is similar to your task list. And now we can categorize your instruction by your plant maintenance or breakdown instructions or even installation or disposal. So let me take you one example of instruction. Yep. So in instruction, basically now we can apply a 3D view, dimensional view, or even normal documents along with the details of it. So you can imagine this instruction will be accessible by your technician from the site by using your mobile device, and they are able to understand the detailed assembly or the steps expected to be performed as a part of that repair right from your mobile device. Again, every step come up with very neat and clean guidelines along with your tool requirements, spare part requirement, documentations, even roles, and any failure modes or other information available. Okay, so that is how SAP again improved to simplify this step. Taking you to back, and again, I'm trying to show you one example of your improvement request. So this improvement request is a offering provided by AIN, Asset Intelligence Network. So basically, as a use case of any, based on your running experience of your equipment, your asset owning company can request an improvement in your equipment or asset based on your maintenance improvement or product improvement, or it can be a process or master data improvement. So it comes with the control process where you will have a requester, reviewer, or executor, and we can also perform the impact assessment, and it will come with the basic SLA. Again, traditionally, again, we have the maintenance and service tab where your historical information is sync up with your this equipment, right? All the equipment notifications, work orders will be available here. Taking you to the Asset Central, assessment. So this is something provided by your ASPM capability. So for this equipment, we have performed the risk and criticality assessment. So score has been come as a 20, which is my medium score. So this again, range and everything we can define into the system. And based on my score, action recommended is FMEA. So FMEA assessment is again come up with the failure modes. So the failure mode is again master data that we can define for equipment, and we can perform the assessment based on my severity of the impact or detectability or occurrence. right, in those standard parameters, and I can identify the RPM number, risk and priority number for each and every failure mode. And based on my critical failure modes, I can create a recommendations. Those recommendations can be corrective or preventive in nature. Okay, and all this assessment again we can analyze through my graphical and compare with the normalized score, and we can also see that in detail. So let me show you one example here, RCA assessment. So these are the some impact we have defined here. So these defined again are configurable depending on our asset nature. We can define our own, and we can define the questions and answer for it. What should be my answer for depending on asset nature, and depending on every answers, I can system multiply or add as per the pre-configurations and determine the final score for my risk. Okay. Let me take you another example of RCM, which is again a interesting thing. So I will show you reliability center maintenance. So reliability center maintenance again come with the standard 7 questions here, right? So those 7 questions are nothing but my master data. So, and like here my pump fluid is my function, no flow of the or that fluid is my failure, and it causes because of bearing seized. It can be caused because of shaft is damaged or incorrect calibration. So if I want to perform that assessment, I can see the consequence section. So here basically, as I mentioned before, it comes with the series of questions. Okay, and every question will have yes or no type of answers, which will recommend the recommendations, and then the recommendation can be generated within the system. Okay, so with interest of time, again, I would like to give it back to Matthias.
Okay, good. So as you can see, I mean, there's a lot to explore, and in the short amount of time for today, I think we just wanted to focus on certain aspects of the intelligent asset management solution from SAP. I think now giving the foundation in terms of what are these different components, these different solutions, on top of that, also giving you some kind of first look and feel. Just again highlighting that if you're interested in those further details, again, we will have further webinars planned to really deep dive into those individual sections. Yeah, I guess that should really give you now the first kind of overview, and happy to, I mean, you can also reach out to us or wait for the next webinar to come up and yeah, get to know an AIN or the PAI or the ASPM functionality in more detail. Having said that, I think then let's jump to the questions. So if you still have questions, just use the, as I mentioned, also chat box on the right side. You've received already a few. So the first one is what kind of master data improvements we can expect from Asset Central? Prasad?
Yep. No, Matthias, I can take that. So basically, as I mentioned or show you into the system, so it come up with the lot of new master data. So traditionally, we used to have a basic equipment, but now along with the equipment, now we are able to upload your 2D and 3D diagram. We can able to categorize those equipment in terms of your functions, function failure with that, or any failure mode analytics. So those are the some of the details are again available. So your structure of the master data has been improved, right? And the one of the important factor is that this is all master data aligned with your regular ISO standards. So that gives you an opportunity to improve your overall master data if that is not up to this mark on your ERP side. And lastly, again, your different business partners like your manufacturers and your service provider who have the again more visibility or who are the more expert are actually helping you by using this concept or this capability to enrich your master data quality. So definitely those are the some of the improvement I can see as a part of this offering.
Okay, thanks. Then there's one more. Are task list and maintenance plan information also part of the IAM, so Intelligent Asset Management platform?
Short answer, yes. So the The task lists, although you saw such as the instructions, have a different look and feel, but I mean, it's the same information. This is fully integrated with the ERP.
All right. And one more, is there any configuration required to be set up to work this solution?
Yeah, Matthias, I can take that question. So basically, we require some quick step configuration, but those are not as congested as compared to your ERP configuration, which we typically used to have while plant maintenance implementation in back days. It's basically just a connector which we can easily set, and then we can basically, those configuration help us to control your flow. What are the data basically we want to move from your ERP system to your asset central side. So those are some of the controls are there. And lastly, again, some mapping basically. So if I want to say there are certain equipment categories on my backend side in ERP side, and I have new categories on, for example, my different business partners. So I can map those categories or those notification types or anything. So those are like very quick configurations are there, but definitely not as big as your traditional ERM or plant maintenance implementations.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Any other questions? So feel free to send them to us. So far, I think these were the 3 questions that have been raised so far. Let's give it another 10 seconds. Good. So now with having all of the questions covered, yeah, thanks a lot for joining the session, and thanks also for the team to contribute here. Yeah, please watch out for our next webinars. Looking forward to welcome you back. In case of any questions, just reach out to us. You can see, or you will receive also our contact details, and happy to answer all of the questions that maybe come up afterwards. Having said that, so thanks a lot again, and yeah, have a great day, and see you soon.